Oh, stop this, Verdi, for heaven's sake. This is not Florence, this is Britain on an autumnal day. I think it's about time that we pulled over and was serious for a moment. We need to be serious because this is a crucial Maserati. Now, Maserati was a big name 60 years ago, and quite rightly, they've never been mainstream, instead focusing on exotic sports cars and saloons. This is their new car, and it has big ambitions. And those ambitions come in the form of an SUV. Named after a wind, the Levante is Maserati's first ever SUV and goes headlong in battle with some serious competition in the shape of the Porsche Cayenne and the Range Rover Sport. However, Maserati is stuck on a few of its design cues, like the large grille, the 3 air intakes on the side, and the Maserati Trident badge on the C-pillar. You may or may not think the exterior is a little bit contrived, but happily the interior is a little easier to get on with. Yes, we may have these very Italian colour scheme seats and these deep grained wood trim inserts here, but overall the quality in here is a big step up from old Maseratis. Everything feels really nice to touch and it doesn't feel flimsy in any way. There's the traditional Maserati clock at the top, and beneath it there's Fiat Group's latest infotainment system. Now, it works quite well, not quite as well as BMW's or Porsche's systems, but overall it's quite slick and it looks quite attractive. Now, it's a touchscreen and you can control it with the rotary knob down here. There's a wide options list as well. You can choose from different stereos, Harman Kardon, Bowers and Wilkins. You can choose from different grained leather, including having part of the seats, the roof lining and the door panels finished in Zegna silk, no less. Overall visibility is very good, the sight lines are absolutely fine, and you can adjust the driver's seat as well as the steering column for the perfect driving position. There's only one Levante to choose, and it comes with leather upholstery, the aforementioned touchscreen infotainment screen, an 8-speaker stereo system, cruise control, hill descent control and dual zone climate control. You can then upgrade it with a sports package for a more athletic look, or a luxury package for, well, a luxury look. The good news continues back here because overall we've got a good amount of space. Now, I'm just over 5'10" and that seat is set up in my driving position and I've got a good amount of knee room. If I sit bolt upright, despite this sloping roofline, I've still got a decent amount of headroom. Despite there being a small hump in the floor, a middle passenger is going to feel a little bit shortchanged because there isn't really space for their bottom. If I sit here, yeah, I'm not going to really want to sit here for too long because the seat squab is a bit uncomfortable and I'm going to be fighting with my passengers for shoulder room. Practicality wise, well, we've got some pockets on the back of the doors, we've got an armrest here with 2 cup holders, we've got vents down here, and happily we've got 2 USB charging ports as well. What's not quite so good back here, however, are the fact that these ISOFIX points are quite difficult to reach. But if you do carry children back here, you will like the fact that the doors open nice and wide, meaning when you're putting those child seats in, it should be pretty easy. Round at the boot, well, the amount of space that you've got is 580 litres, which is considerably smaller than the Porsche Cayenne and the Range Rover Sport. However, it's identical to the BMW X6, and really that's quite similar to the Levante, especially with its curvy coupe-like rear end. So the amount of space you've got on offer is good. There's a wide opening, a flat loading floor. We've got some tie-down hooks. We've got some straps for some extra storage here. We've got a 12-volt socket. Under here we've got a tray for your odds and ends. If we grab the Carbuyer suitcase, you'll see that there's a nice amount of space. It's not massive, there's not a huge amount of height, but generally speaking it's okay. And of course you can always make the space larger by folding the rear seats, and they split 60-40. All you have to do is pull in this lever down here, which is actually quite stiff, but push the backrest down, and thanks to a flat floor here, it means you can easily slide your items right to the front. For a car wearing a Maserati badge, you'd expect a range of flamboyant engines. So, the most evocative is a Ferrari-built V6 petrol pushing out 430 brake horsepower. Unfortunately, we haven't got that engine here. We've got the far more sensible 3-litre V6 diesel. Now, Maserati say they will offer the Ferrari V6 petrol, but that won't initially be from launch. So this is going to be the bread and butter engine, and that's not a criticism. It is a very good engine. Power is strong. We've got 275 brake horsepower and 600 newton meters of torque. The power delivery is strong, it's smooth, and you can make it sound a little bit more sporty when you press down the sport button, because some sound actuators open up in the exhaust flaps, so it means that when you actually put your foot down, like we're going to here, they've tried to replicate a V6 petrol, and they've actually made quite a good job of it. The V6 diesel is quite environmentally friendly. With CO2 emissions of 189 grams per kilometre, it's not as good as the Porsche Cayenne, but it's still respectable. Over 400 miles, we average 29 mpg, which is 10 mpg off the figure Maserati claims. Maserati has worked hard on making the Levante feel like a proper Maserati, so as standard you get a limited slip differential and torque vectoring. Now, torque vectoring is where the car sort of nibbles at the brakes during cornering, so it means that the car remains as direct and as pointy as possible. And they've done a very good job. It feels quite agile, quite sporty, and really quite energetic to drive. Maserati fits as standard four-wheel drive, and 100% of the power can be sent to the rear wheels. When the road gets slippery, the power can be split 50-50 front and rear to give extra traction. But the Levante isn't just a road-based SUV though. Maserati has fitted the Levante with a couple of off-road modes, with the most extreme setting lifting the ride height by 40mm. Most Levantes will never go near a puddle, let alone a muddy field, but it's good to know it'll cope in adverse conditions. Another area where Maserati has tried to make the Levante feel like a Maserati is with the steering. Now, they fitted the Levante with hydraulic steering. It's quite an old-fashioned steering system these days. Most cars come with electronic steering, and this feels very good. It feels very accurate, it feels very direct. It's not brimming with feel though, and I really do feel that along with this and the rest of the package, it's not quite up to the standards of the Porsche Cayenne. But the fact that I'm talking about the Levante in the same sentence as the Porsche Cayenne means that Maserati has done a very good job with the Levante. There are some issues though. The rear visibility is frankly terrible, and the gear lever is both plasticky to touch and difficult to use, with it being very easy to select the wrong gear. That options list I mentioned earlier is long and costly too. Our test car was nearly £70,000. Die-hard Maserati fans may shake their heads in despair at the idea of Maserati producing an SUV, but they shouldn't, because the Levante is a fine car, it's good to drive and it's well made, and it's an interesting alternative to the Range Rover Sport and the Porsche Cayenne. Speaking of those two cars, you can watch our reviews by clicking left on the Porsche Cayenne or on the right for the Range Rover Sport. Click at the top for our latest video and on our logo to subscribe.